Hello, I'm Eve Grzyskowski. I live on the mid-coast of New South Wales in Australia. I have a yoga studio here, and I've been teaching for a long time and practicing yoga for even longer. And I know how important it is for all of us to keep up a regular yoga practice. Unfortunately, that's more difficult now because so many facilities, especially yoga studios, have had to close because of the coronavirus. And at the same time, I still want us to be able to keep up our practice. So I decided to create these videos for you to be able to practice at home. The practice that we do today is a very simple one, and it's from my book, Teach Yourself Yoga. And that book is available online for electronic devices and also available as a paperback. So, let's go. We're going to start our practice with a pose called Supta Baddha Konasana. It's going to be a 5-minute timing. That's a good amount of time. And we're going to use a few of these soft props, a bolster, and a blanket to support the head and the neck. It's a good pose to let you arrive in your yoga practice. It means bound angle pose. You could use a strap to bind around your lower back, around your knees and your feet. But we'll just keep it really simple here and give time to settle in to your body, to find the rhythm of your breath, the beat of any pulses in your body that you can attune to. And it's not necessary to commit yourself to a static position. It's very intelligent if you need to, as you go along, to adjust your posture so that you feel like you're the most comfortable that you can be. And you can let your level of awareness drop down into feeling the sensations of your body, making that switch from other activities that you might have done before you got to come onto your mat. Maybe to let your thinking activity slow down. And so we hold the pose a little bit longer in order to get the maximum benefit from just being peaceful, quiet. After Supta Baddha Konasana, it's a really wonderful feeling to stretch forward because you've been a little bit of a back bend for part of this time. And stretching forward is a good counter move to that back bending. So stretching forward for about a minute will do it. And then I'm going to do a pose that I love to include in every practice. It doesn't have a proper Sanskrit name. I call it chest opener because that's really what it does. And in kind of a kneeling position, elbows supported on the edge of a chair. This chair's padded, which is really nice for the elbows. And my forehead, you can't quite see it, is also resting on the edge of the padded seat. And you can see that I make these little micro adjustments as I stay in the pose because they just feel like the right thing to do. So pay attention to your body, and you might want to do the same thing, is adapt the pose to your own anatomy. So we're moving on now to getting ready to do some standing poses. So the most basic of the standing poses is Tadasana, Samastiti, just standing in a comfortable way, landing on your 2 feet, letting the legs support the pelvis, and the arms relaxed. And now stepping out to what feels like a weight that I can balance right foot, left foot in, and taking a lateral movement. And sometimes I just like to keep my knees a little bit bent, which seems to ease any pressure on my lower back. Like I've done in the previous poses, just trying to find my own level of the pose, that lower arm, that upper arm, my diaphragm, just making them comfortable and allowing for my breath to be peaceful. And lengthening to the side from the lower rib cage, and then letting the upper ribs soften into the support of the lower ribs. And you have to figure out what to do with your movement through your neck. So I've got my head partially turned, but on the other side it felt more comfortable, and maybe here too, to look straight forward. And the arms, with a little movement through the elbows, and coming up. I like to finish sometimes with my arms extended and a shoulder blade lift, and then bringing the arms down from overhead stretch, and back to home base, Tadasana. And stepping out and trying to find the distance where I'm balanced on my 2 feet, and ready for Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior Pose 2, Trying to find out what's the right angle behind my knee, what's the right movement for my neck. Just feeling sensations through my body that allow me to be able to breathe, feel the life force. And then ideally keeping the timing even on both sides. And then once more finding that right bend, flexion through the knee, support through the feet, kind of firmness through the ankles, the arms extended but in no way tense. And the breath just flows in a quiet way. And coming back to stopping, consolidating in Tadasana. And in the sequence, the pose here is Konasana, and it's partly a lateral stretch and definitely working into especially the bent leg hip. So creating an opening. On the opposite side, that leg is firm. I've taken a block to support my hand, and I had it originally on the high end and then lowered it down. I just felt like the next place to move into, but it's fine to keep the hand on the block on the high end, or even have your elbow resting above your knee onto your thigh. And we're moving slowly through the postures. That works for me because I can feel my way into them. I can feel sensations. Oops. And sometimes a wobbliness and righting my balance. Time to do that. I think this is a really delicious stretch for the ribs, the side of the diaphragm, the shoulder blade. I'm just finding my breath and making it easy. Until I feel that's enough. And coming up and out of the pose. Okay, and a little extra. I don't know, that felt good to raise arms overhead and come into a overhead stretch. And the last standing pose is Uttanasana. I've taken it really gently to bend and flex at the hips. And the feet move around a little bit so I can feel all of my footprint. My knees are slightly bent again to take some pressure off my lower back. And little by little, releasing my neck. Leaning into the pose means the top hamstrings getting extra stretch. And feeling that folding that is a safe stretch, good stretch and just right stretch for me now. The bolster comes back for a way of doing another back stretch, but incorporating these arm movements. The pose is called Konasana. And it just lets me lift the weight of my torso off my lower back, and the back away from the pelvis, and still feel really grounded through hips, legs, feet. And the hands grip behind the back, or you could hold a belt between the hands if you're not reaching. Oh yes, so I cross my legs one way, crossing them the other way. Attention to symmetry, both sides of the body getting an opportunity in cross legs. And a little extra stretch holding the elbow. And then moving the hands close together or all the way together. So your head is in a straightforward position and a little chin lifted, and that keeps the neck extended. And ready to move on. To another of the counter poses, a chair twist, which I really enjoy doing. So sitting on a flat seated chair and holding the back of the chair, one of these strange chairs without a back that makes it a yoga chair. And I'm using my breath to help me rotate the spine. And there's no pulling or pushing. My hands just resting there at that height to keep my chest lifted and open. And I found my way to rotate my neck just comfortably. And the second side. And the breath is like a metronome, and it gives you a beat, a number of beats, so that you can time yourself. If you want to stay even on both sides, maybe you don't. Maybe you think one side is seeking a little bit more attention. And the idea when you do these spinal rotations is to do them in a way where your spine is elongated, chest is open, but they're not forced. And bringing back the cushion to sit on, just for a little bit of height. Makes hips more comfortable, possibly. You might not need one. You might just sit flat on the floor. And we're going to do a really simple breathing and meditation exercise. called the Who breath. So you can see I've curled my fingers into my palm, the thumb curls in too. And I'm using my fingers like an abacus to count my breaths. So an inhalation is through the nostril, and then the exhalation through your lips, which are pursed. And the breath sounds like so probably longer inhalation, exhalation as you go along than your normal breath cycles, and counting off on one hand and then starting on the second hand. You can do a set of 10 breaths, which I'm demonstrating here, or you might do 3 sets. So you've done 30 Who breaths altogether. I think more is better in this case, because as you go along you'll find that you're sensitizing yourself to the breath. Breath is felt more internally, in my experience, as you go along. So even in the pelvic floor, even in the inner abdominal muscles. You could stay for meditating or contemplation for a little while longer there, or now it's time for Savasana, the yoga relaxation. And I've got these 2 props for myself. A bolster supporting at the back of my knees, and a folded blanket underneath my neck and my head, but not under my shoulders. That's an adjustment that you can make for yourself. The chin is down a little bit, just releasing any tension in my hands and my toes and my feet. And I'm going to stay here for 5 minutes. You could stay 10 minutes. And as you go along, the idea is to let yourself, let your body yield to gravity, be supported by Mother Earth. And maybe just observe your breath. When you're finally ready to come out of the pose, the idea is to roll to one side and use the help of your arms to come up to upright position. And just to round off and complete the pose, seated, bringing the hands into prayer position, namaste, in gratitude for the privilege of practicing the connection with yourself. My wish for you in practicing these sequences is that they bring you peace and calmness in this difficult time. And I guess that's the benefit of us being at home more, is that we do have more time for these contemplative and quiet practices. So I'm happy to hear your feedback, see if the practices hit the mark for you. Thank you.